Hello everyone, this is Mr. Garrity, and today for the Endeavour Plus we are going to look at the importance of being buggy. Or to be a little bit more specific, we're going to look at some exam questions and how we can decode them, take them apart a little bit to better understand what the examiner is expecting us to answer the questions with. So we're going to make it a little bit more direct, a little bit more simple for us to follow. A quick disclaimer before we begin is that just listening to these instructions will not magically make your grades improve. You must practice what is in this video if you wish to see improvement. Before I get on to the business of actually decoding an example exam question, let's recap the importance of doing this strategy and why we decode these questions in this way. To start with, these questions are often using quite complex, specific language. Often Tier 2, Tier 3 English language is used in these questions to be difficult to unravel, since the unraveling of the question is its own skill that they are testing you on. It gives you a chance to actually have a plan, to develop your ideas and retrieve the specific knowledge that you need so that you can follow the plan to a successful conclusion. By having a plan, it allows you to be a little less waffly and to remain focused on content that will answer the question rather than to go off on a different train of thought or a different tangent that won't be as successful. And ultimately, this entire process makes it easier for your brain to handle the question. Rather than having to think, plan, write, and understand and evaluate if the answer is actually answering the question all at the same time, you're doing it in a more step-by-step fashion, which is much easier for you to complete and much easier for your brain to deal with. Here is our example question. Pause the video to read it to see if you already understand what it's asking for. Now, from lessons, we know that our exam strategy is to bug the question. The B standing for boxing the command word, which, looking at this question, is going to be evaluate. When we see that it's an evaluation command, we know that we're going to have to deliver or answer with two sides of an argument. We will also have to conclude which side of the argument is stronger. This might be if we agree or disagree, positives or negatives, or the benefits and downsides to a potential management strategy. Now the U of bug refers to underlining important information. This might be things like specific instructions or what part of the geography course we are being tested on. So for example, I'd underline the word to, because I know that I have to give two examples rather than just one. I have to talk about long-term responses, immediate responses, and all of this is in reference to tectonic hazards. Now the G refers to going back and rereading the question to better understand what it wants you to do. A way to help you with this is to maybe annotate some of these slightly trickier words or ambiguous words to be more directly linked to the knowledge that we have. For example, I could annotate tectonic hazard and say, well, I know that a tectonic hazard we have studied is earthquakes, because I have two case studies for earthquakes and I don't have many for volcanoes. Now this question is all about the responses, which is how people react to a hazard event. In terms of immediate responses, this would be things that immediately happen after the hazard has happened. So this might be something like an evacuation. It might be providing emergency supplies, like food, or maybe bottled water. Long-term responses will probably be things like rebuilding, and even repairing infrastructure damage. Now the named example that we have for these would either be New Zealand or Nepal. Now looking at my responses, I know that New Zealand evacuated 200 people in the first 24 hours, and they supplied food and water via warships that were just off the coast. It took only 2 years to rebuild their infrastructure, and part of that was to have a flexible water pipe. So I'd probably rely more on my New Zealand case study knowledge than Nepal. And because the question asks for 2 named examples of responses, I don't have to give 2 named examples of places that have had an earthquake. So rereading the question and thinking about my annotations, I might consider rewriting the question to better understand it, at least as a revision tactic. So rereading this, I'd rewrite the question to be a bit more direct, such as, using New Zealand, evaluate whether rebuilding infrastructure is more important than evacuating people. Hopefully that is a bit more direct, and hopefully I can apply a bit more direct knowledge to that kind of question now that I understand it a little bit better. So we've just had an example of physical geography in an exam question. Here's some human geography in an exam question. Pause the video, have a go at bugging it.
Find number of moles.
Now let's see how you got on.
Mass of the iron.
The command phrase here
answer,
is
and the final mark
to what extent,
for converting it into
where we know
again,
we have to deliver 2 sides of an argument and conclude it. We may have underlined this idea of urban change, social and economic opportunity within a UK city. Going back and rereading the question, we know that social refers to people, economic refers to money, or trade even, opportunities are often positive, and the UK city we have studied would be Liverpool. Now because Liverpool is our case study, the urban change that it has experienced is de-industrialization. Or to put it another way, moving from a secondary industry into a more tertiary based industry. So no longer relying on factories, but more on things like tourism and creative industries. So the question then becomes, if we were to rewrite it, to what extent has closing factories in deindustrialization created opportunities for people and the economy in Liverpool. Of course, you have a moment now to stop the video, go back to your 2 annotated questions, and have a go at answering them. Best of luck.